Who should follow up on those plans, on the approved plans that were just done on the fire services plan, to make sure that they're working and to make sure that the savings are being implemented that we were told about, as to not jeopardize the projected savings and make sure they're achieved?
Well, we've got a city staff for that. And again, I think it's important always to recognize what everyone's agenda might be. And I think it would be important for the city council to make sure that those comparisons, studies, and whatnot are unbiased. If they appear to be biased, then they need to be sent back. If we need outside assistance in evaluating those, then I guess that we look for that. And I think city staff has to understand that if you can provide an unbiased and we have to go outside for it, well, maybe we have city staff that we don't need because we've got to pay for this from an outside source. But ultimately, city council's got to make sure that it's looking at those studies and comparing them for getting the best out of what we deserve.
Can you restate your position on the sweeping issue?
Well, I think it was a tax. I think it was a budget shortfall, and it's got all the appearance of a tax. In my experience is if it, well, push it, looks like a duck, walks like a duck, sounds like a duck, and then it's a duck. I think that the signs that go up on our sidewalks, as few of them as there is, are look worse than anything that you might have seen in the gutters. I've lived in Orange County for 20 years. I've been through other cities that had the street sweeping signs. I was always curious, why do they have a need to do that? We don't have a need to do that. You drive down every street and there's 4 hours, 6 hours, no parking, and you've got these signs. We can put signs up all day long. I don't think they add to anything in our neighborhoods. And come to find out, the signs are not prevalent enough. I would be the first to argue for anyone that's got a ticket. You went into a neighborhood and probably didn't see a sign. That's a fair argument. But I don't want to see a tenfold increase in signs so that we cover every street. I don't think that we have a problem that necessitates that. We've got a whole city, or part of some city staff that's been working for months on exemptions and exemption policy. We've got a lot more things to do besides working on an exemption policy for street sweeping. I don't think we need the street sweeping at all. I think we need the signs up there. And I understand. I've heard from a couple of people, well, we haven't gotten our street swept in a long time. Okay, well, I think there's ways to deal with that. Similar to, people don't put away their trash cans and things like that. But overall, I think it was just a tax. I don't think we need to be wasting our time on coming up with exemptions to that policy. I certainly don't want to see a whole bunch more signs go up just to be in compliance that we're ticketing people without their notice.
Very good.
After the interview, please.
As taxpayer dollars pay for city services and purchases, should staff seek a competitive bid on these? And when we get these competitive bids, would you be looking into those? Would you be researching those? Or would you be relying on city staff heavily? How would you handle that whole process?
Well, I think was with other things with city staff, if you've got an understanding, if you've got a trust, if you've got an experience that they're on the same page with you, then I think you rely a lot on what they bring to the table until they show otherwise. I think in our present situation, that hasn't been the case. And so I think it probably demands a little bit more oversight from the council itself. Like I said, when things are misrepresented, then it makes me suspicious of what the agendas are. I don't mind people having different agendas, just so everybody's agenda is on the table. There's a lot of different interest groups and a lot of different people to satisfy, but hidden agendas don't lead to anything positive. With city bids, if we're consistently bringing projects to table and there's not a variety of bids out there, it doesn't mean the lowest one is always the best one. But you gotta have some comparison. Otherwise, how do you know how you're doing it? If you're gonna base your salary on comparisons with other cities, I think your actions should be the same, and that you compare any project that you take on to other possibilities. The solar panels, for one, I understand we only got one bid on that. If that was a really important project, I'm sure there's more than one company that's doing things like that. We should have looked at some other bids.
The next question has to do with a rather large building down on the other side of Brea Boulevard from us. It's the Boys and Girls Club. The current lease for that unfinished building is going to expire on 12/31. Can you explain your position on the issue of the Boys and Girls Club and describe what action, if any, should be taken? Let's just say at the end of the year, the lease is not renewed for compliance purposes.
The Boys and Girls Club is obviously an organization that works well in most communities and provides a service to its youth. But like any other organization or agency or so forth, it's got to do its part too. I think we gave them a really good sweetheart deal in a lease, and their management has got to come to the table with the balance of it. What we do next, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I haven't gone that far into what the potential solutions are for the Boys and Girls Club. But I know it's something that maybe we did haphazard. We didn't demand that they had all their ducks in a row before we started down this path. And I know we demand that of other parts of the city. I know as a resident and a parent with kids playing sports, we looked for a sports park for years. The city made sure they had all their ducks in a row before we went down that path. Okay, that's good to do, but we didn't follow the same direction with the Boys and Girls Club. And it's probably going to take some solution that's not favorable with the Boys and Girls Club, because I don't know if they're going to be able to live up to their end of the deal.
Okay. I believe you were sent a direction on how to find some information on the Brea IT budget. It was emailed to you. If you had a chance to look at that. The synopsis of the question is, Brea's currently has a $120 per resident cost, where neighboring cities have a $10 per resident cost. Do you feel that Brea, do you feel that we're receiving value for this expense? And two, would you support an audit of the entire enterprise to determine if the supported enterprise profit is real? I mean, did you get a chance to look at that report? Okay.
Well, I think it's like most things with the city budget and departments. And again, if you trust your executive management that they're going to bring things to the table, then you can rely on their internal studies and so forth. When that's not happening, then I think this is an example of a case where raises a lot of red flags. It is so far out of whack. I don't know, in looking over the spreadsheet and comparing it to the city budget, if it's clear that administrative services and IT services are all IT departments. I know there was reorganization, and that changes the spreadsheet, although it doesn't change the conclusion. Even if that were the case, even if in the reorganization was administrative services, which represent a little over $2 million in the city budget, it does not go away or is not part of the IT department, that still leaves us with $2.6, $2.8 million in the IT department with 25 staff. And for a city of our size, that's still $60, $70, $72 per person compared to other agencies. Fire and police, they're a larger part of our budget, and they get a lot more of the attention as it should be. But I don't think any city department should be excused from comparing its services and what it delivers to the people relative to other cities. And if they can't figure out that their model, if there's a better model out there, that they should be exploring that, then I think we need to demand that from the city council position down to the executive management, that it needs to be explored, because it's just too far out of line.
How would you identify a practical way to spend redevelopment money that will actually benefit the community?
Well, does that suppose that there's activities that haven't directly benefited the community?